My next guests have personal experience with the mob we've been speaking of. Both tried to speak at universities when angry protesters attacked. Joining me now, Isabel Brown, Turning Point USA contributor, and Ian Haworth, Turning Point USA speaker, Washington Examiner columnist, and host of Off Limits. Isabel, I want to start with you. Something happened to you when you tried to give a pro-life speech at Virginia Commonwealth University. I want to share this with the audience. Watch.
Fascists go home! Fascists go home!
Would you? Here they come. Isabel, watch yourself.
Get the out of here!
They are temporarily removing us from the room instead of kicking out the protesters.
Isabel, did you even get a chance to speak? And how did Virginia Commonwealth University respond to this attack?
I unfortunately never got the opportunity to break down the lies that pro-choicers believe because of the powerful abortion lobby in America accompanying the incredible Kristen Hawkins on her Students for Life of America speaking tour this spring. Before we even had our names introduced at Virginia Commonwealth University last week, this violent mob decided to chant "Nazis go home, fascists go home" so loudly we were unable to complete the dialogue we came to campus for, inviting students from the pro-life and pro-abortion side of things to ask real questions and embrace dialogue in a way that college campuses are no longer facilitating. Things escalated so quickly that many students felt that they were physically in danger. One student in particular was physically assaulted by this mob. And instead of removing the violent Antifa community members that weren't even students at Virginia Commonwealth University, Kristen Hawkins and myself were essentially detained in a locked room for several hours for our own safety on a public college campus we were invited to speak at.
It's outrageous. Ian, here's what happened to you just yesterday at SUNY Albany. Sadly, it looks the same. Watch. Now, Ian, this goes back to my monologue at the top of the show. You were there to talk about free speech on college campuses, of all things. Why are trans activists swarming around you and forming a conga line?
Well, the conga line is something I think we should just set aside. I mean, that's cultural appropriation on its face. I think it's quite hilarious. But just the fact that they're focusing on trans rights, I think it's just the issue of the day. They've decided I'm a transphobe because I'm conservative. They actually bother to read any of my stuff. They discover I'm not, and quite the opposite. But they don't care. Really, it's all about shutting out any speech that disagrees with their fundamental views, which is that the left should have full power, the radical left. And college campuses is a place where they've really enjoyed full power for decades. And so when groups like TPUSA dare to show up and share obvious truths, they get very, very angry. It's all about forcing ideas like myself, like Isabel, off campus so that people won't be, in their eyes, indoctrinated with the truth.
Yeah, it just seems so off topic here. You know, I mean, you were there to talk about one thing, and then they run off in another direction. They're protesting something else. Isabel, VCU, the school you tried to speak at, said this about what happened. VCU is committed to promoting a safe environment for our students, faculty, staff, and visitors, so the right to gather and speak freely is protected. Did you feel protected? And why are they so tolerant of violence and harassment of women in this case?
I certainly did not feel protected, at least not by the campus police department, who decided not to show up to the event, despite forewarning that there may be violent protesters with people who they have previously arrested in the past and a history of conflict with the Students for Life chapter on campus and these radical protesters at other events. It took 30 or so minutes that I decided to live stream on my Instagram, and someone getting punched and physically assaulted for the police department to even warrant walking in the room. It's nice a few days later or a week later for these campuses to come out and say that they support free speech. But in actuality, these public universities that are beholden to the United States Constitution and our First Amendment rights to speak and gather freely, they're not upholding this reality. In fact, they are pushing a one-sided, lockstep, leftist, authoritarian narrative on the next generation, which is why it's never been more important for us to continue showing up, to continue speaking the truth, and inviting dialogue that academia is supposed to be all about.
Well, I thought the university was about entertaining different thoughts, new ideas. When it's an echo chamber and a silo, what good is that? Ian, they even destroyed a Bible during your speech or before your speech. What is that about? And does that perhaps run to the heart of what I was talking about earlier, that this is a counter-religion, if you will? It's a religious belief that without real form.
Absolutely. I mean, I wrote a column for the New York Post about the fact that transgenderism has become the left's new religion. You saw Joe Biden talking about so-called anti-transgender laws being sinful. You've got people bowing down to Dylan Mulvaney. This is a full-on religion. And so I think tearing up the Bible is an obvious part of that. The only thing they destroyed more was the free pizza that we were handing out. So I think it was just really classic socialism on its face. But again, when it comes down to the colleges, a lot of this is actually motivated by fear. They are scared of these people. They are scared of being held to account by their own students. And so they're really just bowing down to them too, and I think colleges need to stand up and actually push back against this with action rather than words.
There's also a hostility to organized and established religion, which begs for true dialogue to take place, we need representatives of those religions accounted for on campus as well. Isabel, Ian, thank you both for being here.